Hey everyone, it's Prime with Iron Octopus Fitness, and today is another Technique Tuesday, and we're taking a little detour. We're diving into stretches. Specifically today, we're gonna talk about unconventional hip stretches or hip openers or whatever you wanna call them, because that seems to be the one that I get the most questions about. So I think there are a lot of really common hip stretches that we're all familiar with, like pigeon stretch and frog, and those are great, and I'm gonna not talk about those. I am particularly a fan of stretching that you can get into the position, you can hold it for a really long time so that you allow the stretch to go not just into the muscles, but also into the connective tissue. Passive stretching consistently over long periods of time is one of the best ways to increase mobility and range of motion. So I'm gonna talk specifically about passive stretching. Scooch closer, children. Your structural bone shape is the way that it is, and your hips work the way that they work, and that's all there is to it. So when we talk about like opening up into a side surfing stance or getting better turnout, some people can't do it. Like, you just can't, because your hips aren't shaped that way. So if you have a structural abnormality, hip openers don't fix it, because your bone is your bone, and that's all there is to it. If you're lacking flexibility in some of those muscles surrounding the hip, then those are things we can work on. If you have lost range of motion through your hip that you know you used to have, then those are things that we can work on. If you're an adult, your bones are the way that they are, unless you break them. So please don't break your hips. That being said, my first unconventional hip opener that I really like is the seated straddle. But one of the great things about the seated straddle is that when you get into it and you lean forward into the stretch, which is what we're gonna do, you're actually increasing some of this abduction movement through your hip, which is when your hip moves away from your midline. And that tends to be a movement, specifically on our left side, that we lose a little bit of when we roller skate. You're gonna sit on your butt and you're gonna straddle your legs out as wide as you can. Widen your legs out as far as is comfortable. Mine aren't super far, and that's totally okay. Lean forward and kind of round through your back. And this is the seated straddle. Everything through here needs to be as relaxed as possible. I'm not pointing my toes. I'm letting them do whatever they want to do. In this case, my toes like to drift in. The secondary part of a seated straddle is, because this is a passive position, we're gonna hold it for a while and kind of let it work through the muscles and into the connective tissue. What tends to happen when we're in stretches like this is that the target area, which for this is like the inner thighs and some of your hamstrings, might tense up. And so what you really have to do is focus on making sure that those muscles are relaxed. You want to constantly be checking in and making sure that you're not contracting the muscles through the target area. You want to stay nice and relaxed. So if you need to modify this stretch, you can get anything. This is as far as you can go, then this is as far as you can go. And hanging out right here for long periods of time, provided that you relax through your target areas, is fine. So you set a timer and you just hang out right here and you relax and you breathe. And relax and breathe. Even if I just hung out right here for 5 minutes, I'm still doing mobility work. Good for me. Good for me. The second unconventional hip opener I'm gonna show you. So this is a lizard position. It's gonna start in a like runner's lunge position, just like this. You should feel a stretch through this back hip flexor and quad right here. And then you'll get a little bit of a stretch through this leg that's in the front, through the hamstring and the glute, which are hip muscles. The glutes are hip muscles. Bringing your arms to the inside of this front leg and opening up your foot a little bit. So you might want to point it at an angle, and that's okay. And then you're gonna come down onto your elbows and relax in the position. I actually roll my foot up. I don't know if you guys can see it. So I roll my foot up so that my foot is resting on this outside edge, and that is totally okay. You do whatever you need to do. And then I'm gonna come down and relax right here. And it actually helps once I'm down here to adjust my back knee back a little bit further to get a little bit more space to relax into. This is a passive position, so once I'm here, I wanna check in with all of my target areas and do my best to relax through them. Because this position is super awkward and weird, again, having a prop for the first time might be a good idea. So you set up this little prop and you just relax. And now I'm starting to feel it a little too much in the back, so I'm gonna bring my knee in closer and then just fall asleep here. And switch, obviously, when you're done. Get into your position, come down into your lizard. Same idea. It's the same. It's the same stretch, it's just on the other side. So that's two kind of unconventional passive hip stretches that you can use and pair with all of the other hip stretches I'm sure you're already doing. The seated straddle and the lizard are really good ones to add in. Just remember that what's important is that you relax into the position, you spend a lot of time in the position, and that you do it consistently over time. So that's it. See you later.